They say you learn from your mistakes.
That's why we're so smart.
In this week's episode, we're going to dive into the missteps that even seasoned entrepreneurs wish they could erase. From financial blunders to marketing misfires, we're revealing our top 5 business mistakes that can derail your success. Hey, lady bosses, are you working even after putting the kids to bed but still not getting results?
Are you tired of spending money on ads that aren't getting engagement?
Do you feel burdened that you aren't fulfilling your purpose in life because you are so consumed with work?
I'm your host, Brooke Boltz. I'm an attorney and founder of Boltz Legal. I started my business and in 1 year was bringing in 7 figures and am now bringing in multi-7 figures.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Boltz, owner of Boltz Media. I've helped many businesses build their online presence and increase their revenue through digital marketing.
Want to hear how we did it?
We are here to help you achieve your goals personally, professionally, and spiritually.
So kick off your high heels, sit back, and let's ignite that passion.
We're Miss Biz, where we're putting the miss in biz.
Let's get biz done. Mistakes are part of life, but I'm a firm believer that we can learn from other people's mistakes so that we don't make the same ones. So that's the purpose of today's episode. We want to share with you some of the mistakes that we've made in our entrepreneurial journey to try to help you to avoid those same pitfalls. Rachel, what's a mistake that you have made in business?
I think probably the biggest mistake was when you're starting out with your business, you have limited funds, limited help. You're kind of just trying to figure everything out on the business aspect of it. And in the very initial stages, I was doing way too much on my own, from doing my own bookkeeping, which I learned I will never do again, to just managing everything with clients, doing all of the work myself. It was just a lot to keep up with. And looking back after I hired my first teammate, I realized, man, I wish I would have done this a lot sooner.
And I think your experience is super common in the entrepreneurial world. It's something that I tell people on a regular basis. Don't do the things that don't have to be done by you. If there's someone else who can do it, bring them on board as soon as you possibly can. And so now that you have done that, how has it impacted your business?
It's been great. It really has. It's alleviated a lot of stress, a lot of pressure off of me. And then now I have more free time to focus on the business aspect of it rather than actually doing all of the work myself.
I think one of the beliefs that people have that keeps them from delegating to others is that nobody can do it like I can do it. And I found myself even thinking that same thing. How has that been for you? Now that you've delegated out to other people, has that belief been true?
I mean, I think that nobody is going to be able to do everything exactly the way that you would want it to be done. However, I do believe that with the right kind of training, that you can train them to be, as long as they have the right personality type for the job, that you can pretty much train them and mold them into doing it the way that you would want to do. There's a lot of growing pains in there, but just and retraining as well.
Yeah. And that's been my experience too, is that in the beginning, when you first start delegating, it might be a frustrating process because what you're getting back is not what you expected. And you think, forget this, I'm just going to do it myself. But if you redirect that time, instead of doing it yourself, you direct that time into training that person to do it better the next time, it will prove to be worth it over time. My office manager is an example of that. She's been with me for almost the entire time I've been in business, 6 years or so. And when she first started, there was a lot of revisions that I had to make. And now when she writes a draft email for me, it sounds like I wrote it. She knows how to write things in the exact way that I do. And it just came with time and trial and error and training. But now it is so worth it because it has freed me up so much having people who can do things in the same way that I would do them.
I think another big misconception is, taking on the additional cost. Obviously, when you hire somebody or you subcontract somebody, that's going to be money not going directly towards profit because you now have to pay that person. However, I will tell you that you will be able to take on even more clients and make twice as much money by having a little bit extra help. So it can be a little scary in the very beginning when you're taking that leap of faith, and maybe you can start somebody out on like a part-time basis or even like doing piecework, but it'll free up a lot of time so that you can get even more clients in the door and make even more money as well.
Do you love the Miss Biz podcast?
Because we love you.
Here's 3 things you can do to show your support.
1, write us a review. Apple or Spotify are the best platforms for reviews.
2, join us for our Friday Zoom calls at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To RSVP, go to missbiz.com homepage, scroll down to Miss Biz Connects and click the link.
3, follow us on social media. Our handle is at Miss Biz Podcast.
As always, thank you for your support. And I like that last piece of advice of hiring people per the job or part-time, because I can tell you that having full-time employees is a major expense. And that kind of leads to one of my top business mistakes, which was waiting too long to downsize. I've shared this before, but about 3 years ago was my highest point in business. And then a bunch of things happened that were outside of my control with the laws changing, tort reform, and other things that caused my business to take a downturn over the last couple years. And I was terrified of laying people off. I didn't want to put them in a position that they were unemployed or that they would have to not have an income that they relied upon. I had good staff who all cared very much about their jobs and did the best job that they could, and they were very loyal to the firm. So I just felt like I would do anything else but to lay off people. And so I waited and I tried to cut down on other expenses, marketing expenses, and wherever I could. I was trying to cut down on all these other expenses, but at the end of the day, my payroll was by far my highest expense because everybody was a full-time employee. And even though we didn't have as much work anymore, I was still paying them 40 hours a week. And so eventually it got to the point that I really didn't have a choice anymore, and I had to lay people off. And there was a number of people that I had to have that difficult conversation with. But after it was done, it was a major financial relief on the business because I didn't have such high overhead anymore. And so, my mistake was just waiting too long, and it was my own fear. And there was a way I was able to do it in a way that still kept a lot of those relationships intact. For many of those people, I was able to help them find new jobs so that they could transition from Bolts Legal to another firm with with a seamless transition, no loss of revenue, not even one day of lost employment. And so I was able to help them in that way so that they could transition to a better fit for them without any loss of income, and it could still help to free up my business from the heavy burden that we were carrying, because we were still carrying that payroll load of where we were 3 years ago. People just hadn't left the firm and we weren't bringing in enough to sustain that payroll load anymore.
I think that's a great point that you brought up, because I mean, with every business, most businesses, I should say, their dream is to expand and have multiple locations and to be the very best in their industry. So having to come to terms with, all these external factors that you're facing and realizing, like, I can't grow, I need to downsize, that's a difficult one to move past. And I feel like there's probably a lot of businesses that go out of business because they don't recognize or aren't willing to downsize.
Yeah, and it hurts your pride too, because you want to be perceived as this business that is growing year after year, and to go out there. I mean, I went out publicly on Facebook and said, hey, I'm downsizing. Who is hiring? I have some great people I need to help transition. And so every law firm in town, every law firm in the state knows that I was downsizing. And that wasn't an easy thing to do, but it was the reality, and I'm not the only one going through that. In fact, I know of several firms who are in the same position, and so I just had to swallow my pride and say it's more important to me to survive this, to rebuild with a smaller staff, and to also help these people find positions. And so I'm just going to put myself out there and be candid and open and honest with the struggles that I'm facing. And also, it was a learning opportunity for me as well, because I realized that kind of the size that I am right now is a really good place for me. Even though 3 years ago we had more money coming in, there was a lot of stress that came along with that. And I was just working around the clock, and the bigger you get, the more people who you're employing, the more mistakes that can get made, the harder it is to keep the quality at its peak. And so as I just kind of came to realize that maybe I don't want to be a Morgan & Morgan, maybe I don't want to be one of these massive firms. Maybe there is a sweet spot to where I can live the quality of life that I have become accustomed to live. I can give back and afford to give back. I can afford to pay for college for my kids and do the things that are important to me. But it's not the place either that is a Martha Stewart empire. Maybe I'm okay with not being a household name. And that was kind of eye-opening for me too, because I am a very ambitious person, and I always saw myself as going and going and growing and growing and never being content with anything less than constant growth. And now I've just kind of learned that I am okay with that. Honestly, at the end of the day, wherever God has me is where I'm supposed to be, and finding contentment in that place. I am blessed. I'm blessed now to this day. I'm blessed today, even though I'm not bringing as much money as I was 3 years ago. I am incredibly blessed, and I'm incredibly thankful for where I am and where He has me today. And so just, learning to face those challenges and be appreciative for whichever phase of business that the Lord has me, and making the most of it, and also contemplating what those moves are, whether it's growth or downsizing, was just a really big learning opportunity for me.
Yeah, that's just it. You just have to listen to what God is telling you to do, and He will guide and direct your paths. Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Meet our expert team at Miss Biz.
Whether you need help with business strategy, brand development, or digital marketing, we have a personalized one-on-one coaching program just for you.
And if you're looking for something more budget-friendly, our group coaching services offer incredible value and the chance to learn alongside like-minded entrepreneurs.
Transform your business today. Visit missbiz.com and start your journey to success.
So, kind of in the same line of waiting too long to downsize, one of my biggest mistakes was keeping non-A players too long. And there were several people that I had working for me that were really great people. I really liked them as individuals. I saw a lot of potential in them as well. And I spent a lot of time investing into them, training them, retraining them. But after several months of just not seeing consistency in their work, not seeing deadlines being met, having to constantly correct their work because they were missing key elements that should have been there, I had to come to the decision that I had to get rid of them. If the retraining wasn't working and the constant reinforcement wasn't benefiting them, then I'm spending all this extra time and I might as well do it myself if I'm investing all these hours into fixing whatever it is that they're doing. So that was a very challenging decision and a mistake that I had kept them on for so long, because I was trying to be nice and trying to keep that relationship alive and really trying to genuinely help them. But they weren't helping me to what the needs were of our clients.
One of the hardest things in business is what to do with those B players, because they're not C, D, or Fs. Like when you have people getting Ds and Fs, I think okay, we can't have this on the team.
Correct.
Even when they're a C, it's like, yeah, probably shouldn't keep this person around. But when they're a B, B is honor roll. It is, I'm happy if my kids get Bs on their report card. So when they're not an A player, but they are a B player, it's like, what do I do with this person? They have a good attitude, they have a good personality, they're a good fit with the morale of the team. They're not at that A level, but is there still a place for them? And that's just a challenge I think that all businesses have to take. The problem is it's so hard to find A players.
Yes.
And sometimes the B players maybe are going to be the loyal ones who are going to be with you long term, and the A players are the ones who are just always looking for that next best opportunity. And so just finding that right balance for your business is tough. And I know I've been guilty of the same thing where I find a place for everyone, even though I can recognize pretty early on they're not a superstar. I will say, well, they could still thrive in maybe this role, and so let me put them there because they have all these other character traits that I like. And then what happens is, though, they get raises presumably every year, and they get bonuses, and so over the course of time, you've got these people who are B, maybe B minus players, and you were paying them as such initially, so it was a fair trade. But then as they're with you for years on end, and you end up paying them more and more and more and more, now all of a sudden you're paying them an A plus pay rate, and they're still performing at that B minus level, and now you have this disproportionate relationship. So anyways, these are things that I've also learned along the way, and I think now that I've overcome that fear of having to downsize, not because anyone wasn't performing well, but just because finances required it, I think just facing that fear now will allow me to make quicker decisions to let go of people who are not A players in the future, and not to have that fear, I'm never going to find another one. Mm-hmm. That's such a fear. I'm never going to find an A player. They're just not out there.
Or you get rid of the B player and then you hire a C player who you think was an A, but turned out to be, low C.
Yes. Yeah, that's the fear too, is I'm not going to get anyone this good. I'm going to have to train them all over again. It's going to take so much time. I mean, look, I've been there. I've dealt with all of these fears, and ultimately, and even just other businesses that I've talked to, when they've gotten rid of the B player, they've never regretted it. And maybe there is a place for B players, especially if you have certain roles within the business that are not as tasking. If you have a reception role that really just requires answering the phones and whatnot. And maybe a B player is the best person for that place because they're going to be happy in that role and not want to, you want someone who's going to be satisfied in that role long term, whereas an A player may be like, I'm not going to sit here and be a receptionist forever. I want to be moving up. So maybe a B player is the right person for that. I'm not suggesting you never have a role for a B player, but certainly people who are C's, D's, and F's, we need to be quick to remove from the payroll.
Mm-hmm. So speaking about payroll, another big mistake that I made was not making people sign contracts, especially like if I was friends with them, or collecting deposits when we're getting ready to start working for them. So I had, and I know I shared it before on the podcast, where I had decided to do a web design for one of my friends. And I wasn't charging him very much, but I still had to pay my web designer to build the website for him. And he changed his mind. He's like, I'm going to be retiring in a couple years. I don't need to move forward with this website. And I was like, it's already done. But because I didn't collect that, I didn't make him sign the contract, I didn't collect a deposit, I lost out on those funds.
The thing I've noticed is that especially when you have a professional service, people don't value that in the same way that they do a physical product. Mm-hmm. When it's just your time that's being spent, they sometimes just think you're not losing out on anything if they change their mind or they back out. And it's just not the case. I mean, professionals, we only get paid for our time. We only get paid for the work product that we perform. And so we deserve to be paid for the work that we do, but it is not always appreciated in that same way and after all, you can have a lawyer who charges $100 an hour and a lawyer who charges $1,000 an hour. And the difference is the quality of work that they perform. But just people don't, it's very subjective, and people don't always value your time as a commodity in the same way that they do a physical product that they know costs something to create.
And it can be difficult too, like if they're your friend and you have a rapport with them, or if they were a client previously. I had another incident where I was doing marketing for someone who has seasonal employment, and I had done his marketing for a long time, just during certain seasons, and he had contacted me, said, I'm ready to get started with the marketing, and because I didn't bill him before the service was done, I billed him, at the end after I had finished making everything. He was like, I just bought a house, they raised my rent at my firm, I'm not going to be able to move forward with the marketing. And I had already created that whole month's of social media marketing. And it wasn't just me, it was my videographer as well. So if you intend to get paid, make sure that you have your contracts in order or you collect a deposit.
We're all about that case, no trouble. All about that case, no trouble. All about that case, no trouble. All about that case.
At Bolts Legal, we are all about your case. Text or call to schedule a free consultation for all your legal needs. boltslegal.com. Yeah, and I had to make a revision to my contract early in my career because it used to say, because I work on a contingency, which means that I get paid out of the settlement, and so my clients don't pay me out of pocket. And so it originally said, you don't pay me out of your pocket, win or lose, I get paid out of the settlement. And then what would happen, not often, but on occasion, the first time it happened, I made this change. Someone said, you've been fighting my lawsuit for 6 months. You've spent $1,000 out of your own pocket. You, meaning me, I've spent $1,000 out of my own pocket to litigate that case at that point. And I changed my mind. I just want to drop the suit. And sometimes that would happen because we're litigating a home insurance case and they want to sell the house and they've got a buyer and they're like, I need to sell this thing quick. And so let's just drop this thing. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there holding the bag and having put out all this money. So I changed my contract to say, you don't pay out of your pocket unless you voluntarily dismiss it. So if you voluntarily dismiss the case and I've invested time and money, then you will be charged for my services. But aside from that, and that's the only exception, I get paid out of the proceeds of the case, win or lose. And so that was along the same lines of what you did to protect myself from people who change their mind.
So what's another mistake? What's the fifth mistake?
The fifth mistake for me was really just not making my faith putting it at the forefront of my business. It was kind of an afterthought for me in a lot of ways. And I had a fear of alienating people or just the judgment that could come along with making my faith a visible part of my business. And so I did that just this year. Rebranded to make my faith kind of at the forefront of my business, and also have put some things on social media about it. I've done a lot of interviews with Christian radio shows or Christian podcasts or things like that, and just really have been much more outspoken about my faith and Christianity. And now in retrospect, I don't know what I was so afraid of. I found that leaning into my faith has been nothing but a blessing, and I wish I would have done it much sooner. One example is I was on a call with a lawyer who is a friend, not like a close friend that we talk to all the time, but we've maybe gone to lunch a couple times in the last 5 years. And he's referred some cases to me. I've referred some cases to him, and we were having a conversation. And he right away starts talking about his church and things that he's never said to me in our other conversations. And in my mind, I'm thinking he must have seen my new website, or he must have seen my social media posts, because he's being very comfortable to talk about his faith. And at the end of the conversation, he asked, "Can I pray for you?" Aww. And I was really touched, and I thought, if he hadn't seen my social media posts or my website, he never would have gone there, because he wouldn't have known what my belief system was, and he probably would have been afraid to offend me.
Right.
But by putting it out there, now he was comfortable to express his own faith because he knew that I would receive it well. So that was just one small example of how leaning into my faith and being more vocal and visible with it has benefited my business. I really can't think of anything that has been hurt by it. I haven't had a single client say to me, "I'm not hiring her because she's a Christian," or I haven't had a single one. And I thought for sure I would have at least some, but haven't had that feedback at all. And I'm saying this just because this is questions that I get asked. I get asked by people, "Well, does it hurt your business? Do people not want to work with you?" And I'm sure maybe there are some people out there. I'm sure there are people out there who wouldn't want to work with me, but I haven't met them yet. They haven't said anything to me yet. And in fact, the businesses coming in this month is more in line with where we were 3 years ago than it has been the last 2 months. So business is improving from where it's been. So I just am saying this to encourage others that I think this is a common fear that we all have. I have had it for, 15 years. I've been a lawyer now 16. So this is the first year that I've really kind of just said, I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care. This is what I feel I need to do to be obedient. And I've been blessed in it. So those are our top 5 mistakes. We've had so many more. It was actually hard
speak
to
for
just
yourself there. No, I'm just kidding.
It was actually hard to come up with just 5. because mistakes happen. It's part of life. But I firmly believe in learning from our mistakes. I firmly believe in sharing other people's mistakes with each other so that we can collectively learn and avoid those same errors through other people's experience. So hopefully this helped you today. And
remember, there's no such thing as a true mistake unless you don't learn from it, because some of those lessons that you learn are worth more than any type of money that you could ever expect. We appreciate you and are honored to be on this journey with you. We can't wait to help you, to encourage you, and show you how to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
if you found Miss Biz helpful, please leave a review and share with others.
You can follow us on social media at Miss Biz Podcast.
For legal questions or services, please visit boltslegal.com.
And for digital marketing needs, please visit boltsmedia.com. Let's get biz done.